the minutes?
I am.
Okay, I approve the minutes, so we'll get those forwarded over. Before we start, I just want to give, one member of our team, one member of our committee is coming on a little late, but I just want to give introductions to the committee, and we also have Councilmember Mercano on the line as well. I'm Councilmember Angela Lawson, and I've served on the Pfizer Committee, the Federal, State, and Intergovernmental Relations Committee as the chair for over 6 years. So I've been a part of this committee for a long time, and I'm an at-large council member. Councilmember Zvonek, could you introduce yourself?
Sure. Dustin Zvonek. I am represent the city at large as well. Been on council for a little over a year, and this is my first year as a member of the Pfizer Committee.
Okay, Councilmember Mercano.
Councilmember Lawson, Juan Marcano, I represent Ward 4 on council, and I was actually on the committee for half the year last year after one of our colleagues couldn't make it. So I'm glad to be joining y'all today.
Okay, Councilmember Jurinsky, and she's the vice chair. Could you introduce yourself?
Uh-oh, I don't know if she can hear us.
Can you hear us, Councilmember Jurinsky? It looks like she's having some technical difficulties. Okay, so Councilmember Jurinsky, can we kind of fix Councilmember Jurinsky's, what's going on with her issue? Councilmember Jurinsky is the vice chair. She's also an at-large council member as well. And then, we have Councilmember Coombs. Councilmember Coombs, do you want to introduce yourself as well?
Thank you, Councilmember Lawson. My name is Allison Coombs. I am the Aurora City Council member representing Ward 5, and I have in the past been the representative to Dr. Cog, which is very involved with the Pfizer committee.
Okay, so our presentation today, first of all, I want to thank Omar Montgomery. I want to thank Superintendent Chris Smith, and I think Ashley Verville is here as well. Okay, for attending our Pfizer committee meeting. I think these collaborations are really important with our school district to give updates because we are connected together. So I want to make sure that we're communicating. Anything that we could do on your end, it needs to be reciprocated as well. If you want us to come to the school or to the board meetings to give some updates, we would be glad to do that as well from the Pfizer committee or a representative from the city. So we have the presentation at hand. I don't know who wants to start, but please go forward and welcome.
Councilmember Lawson, sorry to interrupt, Chair, but this is Pete Schulte. I've been texting with Councilmember Jurinsky. I think she can hear us now.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Sorry about that. Yep.
That's okay. Councilmember Jurinsky, I gave your introduction on your behalf already. So.
You did it beautifully. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, who's council the presentation from
Sure,
APS?
that's me. I just can't see it. Is there?
Are you able to share?
Oh, I thought we sent it to you. So let me see if I can.
The presentation then.
Give me 2 seconds and I'll pull it up. I thought you were presenting, Chris. My apologies. Hold on.
Sorry about that, you guys.
That's okay.
I'm having a rough Friday.
We'll get it up and going.
In the meantime, Councilmember Lawson, just want to say thank you for inviting Cherry Creek School District to be able to present to the Intergovernmental Affairs Committee. Or
yes. Federal, state, and intergovernmental. Yes.
Thank you for reaching out. So I think we're ready to get.
Appreciate you all being here. So.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity. As I spoke with Ms. Verville, one of the things that she had spoken about was really an emphasis on, what we're doing and some of the things we're doing around youth violence. Before I get to that, one of the things that I just wanted to share with you is just a little bit about Cherry Creek, because I think sometimes there's some misnomers about who we are and who we represent. So I just want to just kind of walk through some demographics. So if we could move into the second slide, that would be great. So just a little bit about us. So moving into this school year and moving into the future, we will have a majority of students of color inside of the Cherry Creek School District. And we value the diversity. If you can see on the top right, we have over 150 languages spoken in our school district, the 4th largest school district in the state of Colorado. And then really an increase in our free and reduced lunch. And so we're proud of the diversity across our district. We're proud of the students that are in it. If you see down below, we are one of the best in-state employers in the state of Colorado, and we take great pride in that. We call ourselves a family. We are always about people first. And then as we continue to push forward, one of the things that we are trying to implement is what we call our pathway of purpose. But if you look below, our 77 career and technical education programs, so students can receive licensure, students can access apprenticeships. So if they choose to go to four-year college, that is absolutely where we want them to go. But if they have a different pathway, we want to give them the opportunities to build careers in life as well. So we can move on to the next piece, please. So during the pandemic, we went out to our stakeholders, our parents, our community leaders, teachers, students, and administrators, and talked about one of the questions we asked. And I worked with my assistant superintendent of equity, culture, and community engagement, and then my chief strategy officer as well, Mike Giles and Jung Park. And we asked a question to our community around what would it look like if your child was thriving in the Cherry Creek School District? And they came back with common themes, and those themes that we have now embedded into our system as core values. And we share that these are not our core values. These are the core values that were shared with us as our stakeholders that determine if our children are thriving or not. And so if we look at the first one, it's that growth mindset. Believe that our children can achieve. Believe that every student has the capability to learn and we can push them to their best ability. And also having growth mindset in the things that we do inside of our system to engage students, looking at things differently, always pushing the limit on our excellence and how we can move forward. Second, equity. Understanding that every person's life journey is different, whether that's by race, culture, gender identity, sexual identity, social economic standings, it's all different. And we need to lean into those conversations. And by doing that, we go into grounding ourselves into whole well-being and really talking about understanding our students, one as academics, but also as people. And that really then leans itself to this conversation that we can push forward around youth violence. Because I truly believe if students feel seen, heard, valued, loved, then they want to be part of coming to school. They want to be part of engaging with your community. And if they don't, they're going to find other places where they do. And so it's imperative on us that we understand their needs and what we can do to help support them. And then engagement. As we moved through the pandemic, we realized we needed to engage our community, our students, our parents just differently. We realized how important school is, and we continue to realize how important school is as students come back and they're struggling with social emotional needs or they're struggling with academic needs. The pandemic was hard, and there's a lot of anxiety both on our staff and our students, and we just need to find different ways that we can support them. And then lastly, the one that I feel is extremely important, relationships, true, authentic relationships. What does it mean to have a relationship with a staff member, our community, and most importantly, the students that we serve? And what does that look like each and every day they come into our classrooms? And that leads us into the next slide. So our vision is pathway of purpose, understanding that we want students to finish and graduate from the Cherry Creek School District, whether they choose to go to higher education, whether they choose to go to a career. But you can see this is kind of an infinity symbol where it really isn't one direction or another. Because right now, as we're having conversations with students and really the future that they're looking at, they may have multiple careers. They may go to multiple institutions, move to a doctorate, but we want to make sure they're prepared for the next step in life. And that's really where we are. And so hope that they feel whole, that they feel valued, and that they feel ready for the next steps that they're going to do, whatever choice they make in their pathway. And then ultimately, we want them to come back to Cherry Creek, whether they come back to work, whether they come back to raise their families in our school district, or whether they want to help support us financially or through different avenues, just making sure that they know that we took care of them as they moved through our pre-K-12 educational journey, and they want to come back and be part of that with their families. You can move to the next one. And this is where we talk about education being different. Education isn't the same way that we went to school, where you start in elementary, middle, high, get your undergrad, maybe a graduate, maybe a doctorate. It's really seamless right now. We have kids who are entrepreneurs in our system as we speak, making decent money and having conversations about, why do I need you, public education? And so we need to catch up, because it's imperative that they are educated, because education will open many, many more doors for them. But it doesn't just have to be higher education. And when I speak of higher education, I think of that next step in life. Every next step in life is higher education, whether that's moving from 6th grade to 7th grade, whether that's me graduating from high school and going to a higher education institution, or whether that's me getting a career, and every moment that I move up through that career or get different training, that's higher education. So I think we just need to think about it differently and how we can support students differently as we move through this. And that's a little bit about that work around the apprenticeships and the licensures that we're doing at our Career and Innovation Campus. Move to the next piece. So last summer, and this is really a segue into some of the things that we're doing around youth violence. And so right after spring break, or right before spring break, we had a situation where near one of our high schools, inside an apartment complex, we had one of our students murdered due to youth violence. That evening, an alum was murdered due to youth violence in that same area, right next to one of our high schools. And so that added anxiety to that entire community. So I went to my superintendent's advisory group and I asked them, you know, you're living this life every day. What is something that we can do? And I had a young man named Kanye approach me and share with me that you have to do it differently, Mr. Smith. It's not easy just to get out of gangs. You just don't get to get out of them. This has an impact on your entire life. And your entire family. So we talked about what's something that we could do. So we talked about building a summer leadership academy where we had students do something similar to a capstone, where they built their own opinions and their own insights of how we can deter or decrease youth violence. So these are students that we saw as leaders and saw had tons of potential, but maybe weren't necessarily always showing up to school or using that leadership potential in the most appropriate way. So we had 25 students who technically didn't show up to high school, but came to our summer leadership program at about a 98% attendance rating for 6 weeks over the summer. And the reason that I believe they came is because they felt like they were valued in that space. They felt like they had a purpose in that space. We had students who had never before read in front of class, reading in front of their classmates, sharing with their teachers, doing incredible research that they want to share with City Council and talk about their ideas about how they can reduce youth violence. And many had lived experiences where youth violence had impacted their families a great deal. Then we had them at the end of the year have a huge presentation to their wants and needs. And some of those we implemented in our school district. And with that, then we tried to transition them, or we have transitioned them back into high school. And what do you need as we put you back into an environment that wasn't successful for you in the first place? So we've brought in EARS grant official counselors that really talk about attendance. They talk about grades, they talk about family communication. So how do we ensure that our students who went through this Leadership Academy graduate? And I will tell you, our students, we meet with them quarterly, we meet at each individual school monthly, and the students are still showing up. It's not perfect by any means, but they truly are inspired to graduate. And they share with us that through this Leadership Academy, they feel a bigger sense of self-worth, and that they know that they can achieve graduation if they continue to strive forward. So we're really excited about that. And I thank Mr. Montgomery for being a huge part of that, because we couldn't have done it without him as well. So this is just a statement from Kanye. In we had an opportunity to get interviewed by the Aurora Sentinel, and I look at the quote there in blue. The question that was asked of him was an interesting question. What do you hope the students receive after these 6 weeks? So immediately the educator in me and the adult in me was thinking organizational skills, reading skills, all of these different things that are very technical in nature. And the answer that Kanye gave after being very thoughtful was, I want to make sure after these 6 weeks that they know there are people who love them and are invested in their success. And that's coming from one of our students. And to me, that is what education is all about. So a very powerful statement from a young man who is going to do great things and is helping us do great things in this school district. So we can go through the next one. So this is just a couple of different pathways that we have at our innovation campus at many of our high schools. I won't go into great detail, but what I share with our parents is these aren't jobs. These are career changing opportunities for our students. So inside of our aviation program, it's similar to an automotive program, but on airplanes. And so it's one of the few this side of the Mississippi. And as they graduate with their licensure from high school, they can walk over to Centennial Airport and make between $70,000 and $80,000 right out of high school. That's not a job, that's a career. Now, if they want to choose to utilize that and go into higher education, good on them. And then they can continue to go through their higher education journey, but maybe not be saddled with all the debt that many of our students accrue through that time. Go to the next one. And just a couple of different things. So we just changed our salary schedule. We are now either first or second in our first year teachers pay. So we were at $57,000 for first year teachers. Before we were at 42, so it's about a $15,000 increase. And we did that through a cooperation with our Cherry Creek Educators Association, where we compressed our salary schedule. We were able for teachers to start higher and then quickly move through the salary schedule and get their highest annual salary quicker. And so we didn't have to use much extra money. And here's the piece, it wasn't equitable across. So some people got bigger raises than others. And so we thought that might be an obstacle in this being ratified by the union, but it wasn't. It was actually ratified at a 98% success rate. So we're really proud of that collaboration between us and our association and really trying to do what's best for all educators, not just certain educators. And then also for the second year, we have our highest graduation rates in Cherry Creek ever. And we're excited about Cherokee Trail High School, to which I believe their graduation rate was about 97% graduation rate, which is incredible. And then we had several schools nominated by the Department of Education for excellence. And then we are one of only 60 school districts in the entire nation that is offering AP African American Studies in class at our Overland High School. And that's getting some good praise and also some interesting comments from different people depending on who they are. But we're excited about this program, and I was able to spend 2 days in there, and the amount of learning that happens and the amount of understanding is just amazing. The kids are great and the teacher is exceptional. We also are opening the very first ever in the United States a mental health day treatment facility for our students. Right now, we are at a crisis, I will call it a pandemic, of mental health across this nation. 10 years ago, there were 77 opportunities, day treatment facilities across the state of Colorado. So students who are struggling with mental health issues could get a day treatment opportunity. We are down to 16 in the state of Colorado, from 77 to 16. So through conversations with my assistant superintendent, Dr. Tony Poole, we kept asking questions. What can we do? What can we do? And we were the answer that we kept receiving was build your own. So in the previous 2020 bond, we decided to ask our taxpayers if they would help us build our own. And they voted at a 70% success rate to yes, please do that. So we are partnering with CU Anschutz and Children's Hospital. So we'd have a severe side where students who need that hospital type clinical service could get that. Then they move into a second layer that is a moderate opportunity that's like an outpatient type of therapy. And then we move them into the transitional piece where they get used to being back in school again. So we talk about, do they do a half day with us and a half day back in school, and build very strategic plans as we transition them back into their home high schools. Because what's happening right now is students go through clinical support and then get pushed right back into their high schools without any support systems or any other pieces that they need. Also, we have built a partnership with Hazel Health. And Hazel Health is an opportunity right now that our 6th through 12th graders can access online mental health opportunities. in about 24 hours, which is amazing, because right now, if you need mental health services and you're looking through your own providers, it could be up to months before you ever have the opportunity to see anyone. And then we're also doing a pilot program this year of doing a universal mental health screener at several of our elementary schools, middle schools, and a high school, talking about what do you need as a student inside of our system, and what support systems do you not know that we already provide? So how can we get more information out to our kids and our families to give them the emotional support that they need? So these are just a few things that the Cherry Creek School District is doing. I'm certainly open to questions, any other feedback that you want me to provide to you, or getting into deeper. I don't know, Omar, is there anything you would like to share?
Superintendent Chris, Smith, I think it was a great presentation, so thank you.
Thank you, Omar.
So I'll start with the committee. Councilmember Jurinsky, Councilmember Zvonek, do you have any questions on this part of the presentation? We can't hear you, Councilmember Jurinsky.
I don't know. You could hear me just a minute ago.
Yeah, we can hear you. We can hear you now.
Okay. So I have I have a few things I'd like to say. So on the pathways of purpose, I noticed that the military was left out of that. Is the Cherry Creek School District still allowing the military to come in and set up tables and set up booths in the hallways to talk to seniors?
We do. And we also just instituted 2 years ago our military graduation. So we have a completely separate ceremony, and thank you for that. I'll make sure that that's in there, because, having my brother who graduated from the Air Force Academy and finished as a colonel, that's very important in our life as well. So that is an absolute opportunity for students to move forward and have a great career serving our country. And we do an incredible amount of work during our Veterans Week and throughout all of our school year to help support our veterans. Actually, we are the only district in the state of Colorado that received the Purple Heart distinction for a district in the whole state of Colorado. And we just received that this year, so we're super proud of that.
That's awesome. And the next thing, I also noticed in your presentation, something that was left out is any mention of the SROs and that relationship. And in the last town hall, Councilmember Sundberg and I do all Ward 2 town halls together. And the last one was a presentation on from all of the SROs, and the community, could talk to them. And the community had a lot of questions, what is going on with these teenagers nowadays? What are you seeing in these schools? Stuff like that. And the SROs let us know that different relationships that they're working on and they're building, they've kind of started their own program, which I found out wasn't being supported by the district or by the city of Aurora. I've now worked to change that a little bit, but they have brought in their offices, they keep like Gatorades and cups of noodles and stuff like that. And, some of these kids, even if they're on a free lunch program, some of these kids didn't even get breakfast, before they came to school. So they're coming to school hungry. And these SROs were coming out of pocket, buying a whole bunch of snacks and stuff that they're storing in their office. And one in particular is Officer Ramirez out of Overland High School. I think he kind of started this whole program. So I know that the city has stepped in to sort of help with that. Police officers shouldn't be, having to come out of pocket to purchase all of that. So I don't know. I personally think a relationship with the SROs and their involvement in the school is very important, and I think might be beneficial to this presentation in the future, but also wanted to make you aware of this little program that they have started on their own, these SROs, that is going through the schools. And then lastly, when we talk about mental health, I am a product of the Cherry Creek School District. I graduated from Overland High School, and a condition of my graduation, just due to my circumstances at the time, there was a program called Heart to Heart. Are you familiar with that program? Is that program still around?
I'm not familiar with it.
So Heart to Heart was a group. Basically, what happened, and that's nice that like you've been able to open this whole other campus for mental health. But it was a requirement that actually was swapped for one of my class periods. And this group came in. They were called Heart to Heart. I don't know if they're even still around, but that I know that when I was there, when I was at Oberlin, it was something that was working really, really well. And it was John Buckner who personally put me in this group. But I give all the praise in the world to him for it. But that was a big success. That was a huge success that I saw when I was at Oberlin. Some of these kids, you know, maybe they're not so focused on social studies or whatever other class that they have going on, and it was swapped as a contingency for graduation, this Heart to Heart program, and basically it was an entire class period. It was a group session, and it was a counseling group. So I don't know if you can go back and find records on something like that, but that program was, I will tell you, it was life-changing for me.
Great. I'll have to look into it because no, I haven't heard it. There are different things that we are trying to put in place, but not necessarily to that extent of an entire class period. So I'll definitely look back on that. And also with the piece around SROs, we have great relationships with our SROs. I mean, we work with several different law enforcement agencies from Greenwood Village, Cherry Hills Village, Arapahoe County Sheriff's Office, and then ultimately Aurora PD. So just met with Chief Acevedo talking about how we can build these relationships even better. So I thank, you know, the officers who are helping support our students who can't eat. And so anything that we can do, one, it's eating, but two, it's just building that relationship with another human being that sees them for who they are and welcomes them into school. So I think that's the bigger piece of that too.
If you could just maybe double down on that, because the SROs really felt like they had a wonderful relationship with the Aurora Public School District. They feel like a relationship with the Cherry Creek Public School District is really lacking.
Interesting.
Yeah, and the sergeant over the SROs is Sergeant Stacy, and I'm happy to make that connection.
I know Stacy Talbert personally. Yep.
Yes. Yep. So if there's any way, because I'm just telling you that they feel very connected to the Aurora Public School District, not so much at all with Cherry Creek, and they made that pretty clear.
That's surprising to me. So I'll touch base with Stacy.
Thank you.
Councilmember Zvonek, do you have any questions?
Yep, just one. And just one follow-up for Chris. Chris, thanks for the presentation on. You talked about the graduation rate, which is fantastic. I remember a few years back, it was statewide, so I don't know the numbers for Cherry Creek. It talked about a third of the kids graduating Colorado high schools needing some sort of remediation in math and reading before going to college. So graduation rates, I think, are a great stat and something that we look to. And as a parent of a kid at Cherokee Trail, I love hearing that they're at 70 or 97%. But I also wonder, you know, do you all track that by district? Of how the number of or the percentage of kids that end up needing some extra help leaving the school district and going into college?
We do. I don't have that information off the top of my head, but I can certainly get that to you.
Yeah, I just think it's another valuable data point because again, it's great but it's one of the measures, right? Ultimately, we want them to be college ready, and graduating is a piece of it, but being able to go in, because it ends up taking these kids, if they have to take a remedial class, you know, credits and extra time in college, and the better prepared they are, assuming that's the track they go. And I love the emphasis that you guys are putting on, you know, that there's higher education doesn't just mean college. I think that's a great way to view it. But just curious as to how our rates are improving or not in that area.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, that's all I have.
And I'm going to open it up to my two colleagues, Councilmember Coombs, Councilmember Marcano. Do you have any questions or comments?
Councilmember Lawson?
Yes, Councilmember Marcano.
Thank you, ma'am. So I also wanted to add to the Pathways of Purpose slide. In addition to the armed forces, I'd like to see skilled trades on there as well. I think that really kind of complements what's happening at the Innovation Campus. So I don't know if you're already working with like the Colorado Building Trades and Construction Council or the Denver Area Labor Federation. If not, I'm happy to make introductions because I think that that's also a very lucrative and fulfilling career path that goes very much in line with what you presented. And I love to see the success of the Innovation Campus as well. Just as an aside, I actually worked on that project as the BIM manager way back when. So it's great to see it, being well utilized and having that campus be a success.
Yeah, and we do have those partnerships, and the language in there is career and technical education, because sometimes skilled labor or vocation work gets twisted, and so we want to make sure that we keep kind of a different vocabulary. So to your point, parents understand that these are huge opportunities for students to go into. And it's not just menial labor. I mean, they can really move into companies and move through that company. And those are the partnerships that we make at the CCIC, making sure that they understand we're building leaders, not just somebody who's going to come out in a work site and just work. And we have people who can come out on a work site and work.
Yeah. Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for the presentation and for the work y'all are doing.
Thank you.
Councilmember Coombs, did you have any comments or did you have a question?
No, just thank you for the presentation, and I think my colleagues covered all of the other questions.
And Superintendent, the question I have for you, I think it's great that you're having the mental health. I'm really glad about that. In your academies, or if there's anything in the school that you have that you kind of help students deal with bullying. So I remember I was bullied in high school, but bullying, we didn't have social media. So bullying was totally different when I went to high school versus today. And I think it has a really emotional, with the kids that I talk to and deal with, I mean, it's really hard to navigate that world because you got peer pressure, you might be getting bullied, if you say something. I just think that that's a conversation that should happen. And I just wanted to know, do you cover that in the academy that you have?
We don't cover it necessarily in the academy because that's kind of a different piece. I mean, kids bring that up kind of in general, but we do have social emotional learning from pre-K all the way up to 12. We've instituted an advisory program in every single one of our high schools to just give an opportunity for kids to just share what's on their mind and have the teacher kind of navigate that through them. And if student needs extra help or extra support, we can get them to who they need, social worker, psychologist, their counselor, to help walk through that. But specifically inside of the Leadership Academy, I think our main focus in there, so I guess it kind of aligns, is that piece around personal resiliency, right? That you can achieve more than you believe you can, right? And so what does that mean for you? But first, that comes from, I believe, having a sense of self-worth. And how do we help instill that into our students? But you're right. Social media is brutal, and it's 24/7. And so really talking to our students about what are the appropriate uses of social media? What are the inappropriate uses? How do you disengage from your phone at times? I just met with our superintendent's advisory group, and we asked them, how many of you feel anxious if you don't have your phone near you? And 98% raised their hand, but I would also err on the side that if I asked this room the same question, what would you be feeling if you got away from your phone here for a couple of minutes? What are you missing out on? And I think the hands would raise pretty much in the same way. So I think it's not only our students, it's our society. And what are we doing to help work through this with our students? One thing I forgot to reference, I just met a community member who's working with us in April to build a youth summit around youth violence. So bringing students in and really asking them, what are things that we could do better as a school district and as a community to support you? Not us telling them what we think is best, really asking the students who have these lived experiences, what do you need? Like, what do you need from us? One of the things that I'm very involved with, we have to reduce, yes, youth violence, but youth suicide. Really, really talking about what makes a student feel like at 13, the only out you have is dying. And so we have to dig deeper into all of these pieces. And so the way we're going to get those answers is asking the students, not asking other adults.
Well, I thank you so much for this presentation, Omar, Chris, and I really appreciate it. You guys are doing a lot of great things in Cherry Creek School District, so I hope that we can keep the partnership together. Anything that we can do, I think that that's what makes us stronger, and we can, tackle this issue. So I really do appreciate your time.
I appreciate yours. Thanks for allowing me to be part of the meeting today.
Thank you. All right. Thank you, Omar. Okay. We're gonna go do our federal legislative update. I see Lori is on the line. Thank you, Lori. How are you?
Good afternoon. How are you all doing?
Doing good.
Okay. Oh, and excited to see you and Councilmember Marcano next week. It'll be great to see you in person after many years. So I'm planning for that trip right now. Congress is actually in recess right now, for the President's Day holiday. They're coming back next week. Right now they are working on the appropriations process. As I've said before, the president's introducing his budget request in 2 weeks. So on appropriations, I've been working with Roberto and Emma on, sorry, Liz, on putting together your priorities. I think Liz is going to discuss that in a few minutes, but making sure we have the right priorities for our senators and for Congressman Crow. I have a couple, opportunities for grants that have come out recently. Last week, HUD released its opportunity for local governments to request technical assistance through the Thriving Communities program. I think Councilmember Lawson, you mentioned this program from the previous conference with National League of Cities. But this program was created to help communities in incorporating housing with their transportation projects. So the technical assistance HUD will come and visit local governments, do conference calls to help you identify land for housing development in your transportation, also develop anti-displacement strategies, and then help implement reforms to reduce barriers to housing. In addition, DOT is about to release its electric vehicle competitive grant program next week. And I know I'll be talking to your public works team about that. So as soon as the notice of funding opportunity comes out, I'll send it over. And then lastly, the Department of Homeland Security just released a proposed rule on border expulsions. They now are making it ineligible for asylum migrants who don't seek protections in like a third country, such as Mexico, or attempt to apply for asylum at a U.S. port of entry. So they'll be subject to expedited removal, which it contains a 5-year ban re-entering the United States. This is a proposed rule. The public can provide comments before it becomes final over the next 30 days. And then the new rules will be in place for 2 years. So short update, since Congress has been in recess for a couple weeks, but continuing to work on your meetings, confirming those, helping you prep for it, and then also working on the earmark request. Any questions?
Is there any questions from Councilmember Zvonek or Councilmember Jurinsky?
None for me.
Okay. Councilmember Jurinsky?
I have nothing.
Okay. Councilmember Marcano and Councilmember Coombs?
None for me.
Okay. Okay,
And
you can
none for me
continue.
neither.
Okay, go ahead, Lori.
Oh, I thought I heard a question.
No, continue.
That's the end of the update for right now, but I was just wondering if you had any questions. It sounds like you don't.
Okay. Who's gonna congressionally directed spending, CDS proposals?
Yes, that will be me, Councilmember.
Who, Liz?
Yes, sorry, this is Liz.
Okay.
So, hi, everyone. I thought we would take this opportunity to go through some of the congressionally directed spending requests that the city has. These were previously.
Liz, the sound, I think something is on, or?
Let me stop everything real quick.
It's like echo, Liz.
Yeah, that's an echo.
Not sure if you're on 2 devices or if you're on another.
No. Does it sound better for everyone?
What going?
Maybe try and logging off and logging back in.
Is this better at all? All right. I'm gonna log off and log back in. I'm sorry to put a pause on this meeting, but please move forward while I figure out my technical difficulties.
One quick update. I see Marshall is on the phone. Marshall, EPA just released its state revolving loan fund SRF allocations for this year. This is, as you know, increased money for clean water and safe drinking water that was provided in the infrastructure bill. So I just sent your allocation over, Marshall. I know you're working with the state to get funding for more water.
Perfect. Thank you, Lori. I did see your email.
I'm just waiting for Liz before we move on. Lori, do you have any more updates? Basically, we're coming out to Washington, D.C. on Tuesday, myself, Councilmember Marcano, and the mayor. and Roberto and Liz. So do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yes, sure. I've been working on several meetings with both our delegation, both the senators and Congressman Crow.
Okay.
I've already confirmed a meeting with the White House and Intergovernmental Affairs. I don't think you've met with this administration. Also have confirmed a meeting with Mitch Landrieu, and he's the infrastructure director, who's former mayor of New Orleans. He's based at the White House too. And I just confirmed a meeting at BJA, the Bureau of Justice Assistance, which so you can talk about some of your youth protection. And I'm about to confirm a meeting with the Air Force for you to talk about quickly.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
So that I'll be coming in today, even though it started a month ago. And I also have a meeting for your Department of Transportation, the Assistant Secretary who handles Intergovernmental Affairs.
Okay. Thank you for that update. So we'll look forward to that, seeing you on Tuesday and moving forward with all of those meetings. It's going to be pretty fast track. So thank you. Is Liz back on?
Hi, this is Liz. Is it still doing the volume situation? Okay, cool. I'm glad we got that solved. So I apologize for that, but I'm really excited to move forward and start talking about our congressionally directed spending requests from the city. The goal is to bring it to this committee, and then hopefully, if they are all approved, move it forward to study session. You may have heard CDS is kind of like the acronym they're using, but obviously they were known as appropriations or earmarks previously. This is just the new language that they're using this year. So in the packet, I have included the kind of things that we'll be bringing forward, but I'm going to try to share my screen so you guys can all see them. Let me get them up and see if this is the right one. Okay, can you all see the first one is the Aurora water pipeline replacement?
Is there any way you can make it a little bigger? I mean, I even have my
Yes.
glasses on, but
Yes, I can make it bigger. I also need to put my glasses on for this. So these first three projects are all centered around Aurora water. And we do have staff for each project to answer questions. But this first project is for the Aurora water replacement project, another pipeline replacement project. If you remember, we did this previously as well. So essentially what we're looking at is to have funding for this. The design will be completed by the end of 2023, and we will be ready for construction by spring of 2024. So this has been what I believe to be is a longer term project. And it does have a 90 out of 10 score due to its impact on the provisions of having clean water. So these water line replacements are in high water line break locations. So this will really help the community in reducing customer impacts, reducing future maintenance costs. And these are the three residential areas that will be impacted by this particular pipeline replacement project. So I guess what I'm going to ask now is if the committee is okay with moving this project forward, or if there are any questions on this specific project that I believe Marshall Brown would be able to answer.
okay. Is there any committee questions from the committee first on this project?
None for me.
Okay. Councilmember, would you want to move this one forward? Councilmember Jurinsky, Councilmember Zvonek.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, we'll move this one forward.
The next project is the 2024 pressure regulating valve improvement project. So it is an estimated construction cost of over $1 million, and then the design is funded as well with a cost of $120,000. This design is going to be completed by the end of the year and be ready for construction in 2024. So the impact of this project is really looking at regularly large scheduled maintenance and repair of city infrastructure. So as we can continue to repair the infrastructure, this means fewer performance issues and future reduced costs. As I'm sure you're all aware, infrastructure ages. So the city's aging water system does require these regularly scheduled kind of updates and replacements to be performing optimally. So this project kind of came from the Aurora Water Operations Group in order to prioritize the rehabilitation for the vault improvement projects. So they need to be rehabilitated to have safer access for infrastructure needs, replacement, and then operational improvement needs as well.
Is there any questions from the committee Councilmember Zvonek, Councilmember Jurinsky?
Nope.
Any
No.
questions from Councilmember Marcano, Councilmember Coombs? Okay.
Nope.
Okay, Councilmember Zvonek and Councilmember Jurinsky, are you okay with moving this one forward?
Yeah.
I am as well.
Okay, awesome. The next project for water is the 2024 Emerging Contaminant System Treatment Projects. So this cost is estimated to be greater than 5 million, but the impact will be to improve water system efficiency and water quality. The design is in process and will be ready for 2024 construction. So this will kind of include treatment technologies and upgrades that will improve water source operations and water quality, which is always important. And so the evaluation design has yet to be completed, but it looks like it is on the path to be doing so. Are there any kind of like questions? And I will ask Marshall to speak a little bit more on this project if he is able to.
First of all, is there any questions from the committee or my other colleagues on this project?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, Marshall, did you want to speak a little bit on this?
I'll just briefly add that obviously PFAS is one of the primary concerns right now that project would be focused on.
Okay, thank you, Marshall. I'm fine with moving this one forward. Councilmember Zvonek, Councilmember Jurinsky.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, on to the next one.
So the next project is the 9-mile pedestrian bridge, and we do have Cindy and Laura Perry here to provide any additional, to answer any questions. But the amount requested for this project would be 3 million, and the city is seeking funds to construct a pedestrian and bicycle bridge that will span Highway 83, and then approximately 500 feet west of I-225. So the bridge is looking to provide safe and convenient connections between RTD bus stations and residential and business developments, and part of looking at the larger urban renewal and redevelopment. So the project is fully designed and ready and cleared through CDOT and eligible to receive federal funding. And then in this, I've also been able to include 2 maps that kind of detail where the project will be.
Okay. To the committee members, Councilmember Jurinsky, Councilmember Zvonek, any questions?
No questions.
Are you fine with moving this one forward?
Yep.
Yeah.
Councilmember Marcano and Councilmember Coombs, do you have any questions?
Yes, Councilmember Lawson, thank you. So my goodness, I'm excited, number one, for the committee's approval of the extra funds on this. But this is something that I thought we had already fully funded like years ago. So I'm surprised to see that we're in this situation. So can someone please explain exactly how much the cost has increased? Because my recollection was that we had already secured around 3 million through Dr. Cog back in 2020, 2021, thereabouts. And that we had actually come in under cost. So I guess I want a better explanation of exactly how we got into a situation where we need 3 million more.
Would Cindy or Laura like to respond to Councilmember Marcano?
Yeah, this is Cindy Collett, Public Works Director. Unfortunately, this project is coming under the construction escalation situation that we've seen, we've experienced since it was originally estimated. And so therefore we're looking for opportunities to fully fund it, to find other opportunities to fully fund it, and therefore need to look for some additional funds to help us close the gap that we have. We're also looking at some value engineering options to help close that gap. This project did come in about, I'm going to say, 2 times over what the original estimate was. Matt Kozakowski is on the call, and he can talk a little bit about kind of the timing of the estimates versus the actual bid, if there's questions.
Mac, did you want to speak a little bit about that if you're here?
Yes, Chairman Larson. Matt Kozakowski, Transportation Project Delivery Manager, Public Works Engineering. specific to Cindy's point about when the estimating was done and when the bids came in, the project estimate was first developed in 2019 timeframe, 2020, and that is when we applied for a DRCOG TIP grant as Councilmember Marcano pointed out, to fund the project. And that TIP grant was for approximately $3 million, with approximately 50% match on the city side. For a total project cost somewhere in the neighborhood of $7 or $8 million, just using round numbers. And then that project went through design process, through COVID, and through the current construction escalation market, and we bid it last November. It went out for public bid. And as Cindy alluded to, the public bids were not favorable. They were extremely not favorable. I'm happy to talk about some of the due diligence that we have done to determine the reasons for that and how we can remedy that. But Cindy's numbers were accurate. The bids came in just in excess of 2 times the project budget.
Well, Matt, I appreciate that. I mean, we do have to go through the rest of our agenda. We're moving this through to the study session. And so I'm sure that council members can ask additional questions when this moves through.
Thank you, Councilmember Lawson, and thank you, Matt.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we're going to move to, is there any other questions about this from the committee on this congressionally directed spending proposals that we've just moved through? Okay. Okay, so state legislative update, Peggy, and I see Cammie's on the line as well.
Yes. Hello. Happy Friday, everyone. Nice to see you, even though it's virtual. Quick update on some of the legislation that we're working on down at the state capitol. We've got 73 days left to the session. We'll end the first week of May. So over 1/3 of the way through, we've got several bills on our list for supporting. Senate Bill 1, which is the public-private collaboration for housing. That bill is in appropriations. And so it will likely be heard about the time they start dealing with the state budget, so probably March, April. The deletion of a child's name from criminal justice records, Senate Bill 75. This bill we took a support position on. The Press Association brought an amendment to the bill to try to allow for them to have an exemption from the deletion of information on children witnesses. We were able to scale that amendment back and provide the judge with the decision to balance basically the need for privacy for children with the public's need to get information. So we were able to limit the Press Association's amendment, but not keep it off entirely. Our attorney suggested having a clear and convincing evidence standard. I talked with Senator Gardner, who was the lead Republican on the committee and helped us with the Press Association amendment. He tried it and did not get any support from the Dems on that one. So it's probably in about as good a shape as we're going to be able to get it at this point. I see Pete's on the call. I don't know if he wants to weigh in on it, but just wanted to share that information. And Pete, you could probably talk more about it.
Pete, did you
Thanks,
chime
Peggy.
in?
Hey, Chair Lawson and members of council, good to see you. Yeah, Mayor Coppin and I presented testimony on the bill, and that was a big, we pushed back heavily on the amendment that we're talking about. I mean, the amendment's fine, right? I don't know, even as, we wanted to make sure there was notice to parents or guardians that there was a hearing, that it was in a district court. And basically this won't be coming from the city, it'd be coming from, the media, whoever wants to file a lawsuit and get it in front of a district judge to actually get this information. released. But one of the statements that I made to the committee was, hey, if we're going to be taking the place of a parent or guardian, we better have some pretty convincing evidence. And that's why I said to Senator Gardner, it really should be by a clear and convincing standard. So, you know, the advice is from our office is to support the bill as it's written, but make a notation that we support it as written, but we still would like it to be by clear and convincing evidence that the need for the information outweighs the privacy interests of the the child. Again, I mean, it's funny that the Democrats aren't supporting. I mean, you guys all no secret to me that I'm a Democrat. It's like, this is important. We're not, we can't be taking the place of our children's parents. Because if a parent shows up to the hearing and says, I don't care, release the name, that's pretty clear and convincing, right? We don't need to worry about it. It's just when the parents don't want it, how much evidence are we going to require the media petitioner to show to get us into the situation that we might find ourselves in, like we did in one of our high schools last year. So,
is there any questions? I mean, any comments or questions from the committee on this?
Yeah, Councilmember Lawson.
Yeah, Councilmember Zvonek.
I guess, Pete, my question is because I don't like I don't like the amendment, right? I think that it definitely takes us in a watered down direction. I can't imagine a scenario where it would be a good idea to release the name of a witness of a kid. I don't know what that even looks like. And so, and to your point is, if the parents and the family, they decide they want to do it, that's on them. But otherwise, I don't see why they would want to. I know that we are supportive of it. So I guess my question is, from where we current law to what it would look like as amended, what additional protections are in there that would make us want to continue to support it?
So under current law, if somebody makes the request, the only names that would stay out of the reports under the CCJRA, the Criminal Justice Records Act, would be the defendant's name, and then any child victim that is under certain enumerated offenses, mostly sex offenses. Okay. So if witnesses like we had last year, they would be released today. So there is a benefit to the bill, even as it's written right now, that still would not happen. And they would have to overcome this good faith, or good cause exception is what they called it. And basically the evidence would be, and the meaning for that is, it's like, look, we said in the hearing as well that nothing's going to prevent the student or their parents from coming out to the public going, hey, this is my kid, or I'm the kid, this is what happened. But what the Press Association brought up was, well, how do we confirm that, unidentified or juvenile witness number one in the report is actually Sherry Joe, right? How would they do that? And that would be, again, they'd have to go to court to get us to order either the police department or the DA's office to release who is juvenile witness number one. And so that was why, okay, great. And I agree with you, Councilmember Zvonek. I can't think today of a situation where that would happen, but could there be? I don't know. But the way the amendment is, it does offer some protection. And I don't think, when I talk about the evidentiary standards, if we don't include clear and convincing evidence, it can be by preponderance of the evidence, right? It just says, and the way the amendment reads, it says good cause means a finding that the person seeking disclosure has established that the public interest in accessing the name and identifying information of a child victim or child witness substantially outweighs the harm to the privacy interests of the child victim witness, victim legal guardian, or child witness's legal guardian. And all we were going to add was good cause mean a finding that the person seeking disclosure has established by clear and convincing evidence that the public interest in accessing the public. So clear and convincing evidence is a legal standard between preponderance of the evidence and beyond a reasonable doubt. You got to be clearly convinced, right? That's how we say it in the lawyer world in front of a jury. You got to be clearly convinced that this is right. So it's not ideal, but it is better than we have today. And I think we should still support it, but still make the suggestion that the city would also support it and actually would prefer that it's say by clear and convincing evidence, because that is a good burden for somebody to have to. And again, I think a district judge hopefully is going to be hesitant to do something over the objection of the child's parent or legal guardian.
That's all I have, Councilmember Lawson.
Yeah, Councilmember Jurinsky.
I don't have anything.
Chief, I see that you're on. Did you have any comments on this?
I'll make sure, am I muted?
I can hear you.
Oh, hi. I strongly support not releasing the child's image. It is, we just saw a presentation where the superintendent talked about suicides in the schools. And you can imagine the pressure these kids are under already, and the bullying and everything else. So I would hope that our number one position would be to no exceptions. But like Pete said, you know, if they're going to have an exception, there should be a high bar. The only problem with that is once you start giving an exception, each judge will start interpreting it more liberally or differently, and before you know it, it's a slippery slope that we can't control. I appreciate the council supporting not releasing these kids' pictures.
Thank you, Chief. Okay, is there any other comments from my other colleagues, Councilmember Marcano, Councilmember Coombs?
Councilmember Coombs jumped off the meeting a little bit ago. She had to get back to work, but I do find that amendment very strange. I don't think that's necessary, so I think we're all in agreement.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Peggy.
You bet. Couple more updates I just wanted to share. 1132, which is the Court Data Sharing Task Force. This is the modernization of courts. It passed out of Judiciary and will be in Appropriations next. And then Senate Bill 97, which is the motor vehicle offenses legislation. This is going to be up next week. And I know Councilwoman Lawson, I believe you're coming up to testify, so we appreciate that. And then on the legislation that we're opposing, Fair Work Week was laid over in committee. So they took hours of testimony, and then the bill sponsors asked that the bill be laid over while they work on additional amendments. Haven't seen those amendments yet. The bill has not been recalendared for committee. I think had they held the vote that night, the bill would likely have died. So I think the sponsors are scrambling, trying to come up with amendments on that. We'll be sure to share those amendments if and when we see them before committee. And I didn't know if there were any comments on that one, or happy to keep moving.
Okay, if there's no comments.
Yeah, I just want to thank you for the very late night on 11/18 and you know, fighting our stance on that. Thank you for that.
That's nice. Thank you. Of course, that's we were close, but we'll get it on the next round. And then Senate Bill 111, this is the Public Employees Workplace Protection. This bill is up in local government on Tuesday. I believe CML just took a position of opposed this morning on that one. So we'll be working closely with them and the other local governments to try to kill that bill in committee. It's a tough committee for us, to be honest, but we're working to see if we can flip somebody on that committee to try to get rid of this bill. So we'll keep you posted, but if we don't get it in committee, we'll keep working on it. I did get, I know there's concern from the governor's office. I got an early morning text this morning. So I think they've got some potential concerns with the bill as well.
Okay. Okay. I'm going to let Cammie give any updates, and then Judge Day.
Sure. Good afternoon. Just wanted to update you on House Bill 1169, which is limit arrest for low-level offenses. We're working hard with CML to kill this bill in committee. We are actively lobbying Representatives Marshall and Snyder, trying to swing them over on our side right now. This is a tool that I think the city still needs in their toolbox, and working hard to try and stop this from moving forward. And the council did oppose on February 10th.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Judge Day.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. just to jump on a little bit of what Peggy already said, 1132 passed out of committee on a unanimous vote, 13-0. It's on to appropriations. That's the data sharing bill. I was down at the Capitol and did testify on behalf of the city in support of the bill. It's good to see Cammie and others down there. Just to kind of clarify the minutes from the last meeting, I guess some of the language that I used when I say a bill would be dropped, what I mean by dropped is introduced into the legislative session, not that it would be given up on or won't go forward, and how it was set forth in the minutes, specifically on page 19, last paragraph. It referenced that the motor vehicle theft bill would be dropped. No, the motor vehicle bill, in fact, just as Peggy said, is going forward. It'll be in front of Senate Judiciary on February 27th. So just to clarify the record on that, the minutes referenced, I believe, by number, Senate Bill 72, which is the sunset provision on the Defense Council First Appearance Grant. That bill is still going forward. It did pass out of Senate Judiciary on a 3-2 vote. It's into appropriations to where they're going to continue with the grant program for another 5 years until 2028. But it was made record of in the Senate Judiciary Committee. They had concerns about continuing to fund first appearance for defense counsel for people in custody. I'm bringing this to the committee's attention because there was a lot of the best way to put it is misunderstanding of what the law requires, and whether or not this is a state mandate or a constitutional mandate. Just to give you a real brief history, and I don't want to get into all the weeds of it, but this bill relates to a bill that was passed in 2016 from the Rothgary decision, Rothgary versus Gillespie, which was a Supreme Court case that came down in like 2008, 2009. As a result of that opinion, back in 2013, a bill was brought before the legislature to require the state public defender to be present for all state court prosecutions during first appearance. And they recognized with that bill that it was a mandate from the state, and they funded the state public defender to be there to represent people in custody at their first appearance. Well, they then applied that to municipal courts in 2016 through House Bill 1309. And for those of us that were there at the time and dealt with that particular issue, we had concerns about the mandate, which was recognized by the legislature in postponing the effective date of that bill, the 2016 bill. They introduced a bill in 2017 to say we're going to delay implementation for another year so that we can figure things out. Well, they introduced a bill in 2018 to actually fund first appearance for public defender representation on first appearance, recognizing that there was a mandate and that it was an unfunded mandate. Well, and the reason why I'm bringing this forward to this committee is that there were statements that were made by members of the Senate Judiciary saying, this will be it. This will be the last time that we're going to extend this particular grant. The cities are going to have to figure out in the next 5 years how they're going to come up with the money to cover this mandate. And there was statements made that it was a constitutional mandate. Well, Rothgary did not constitutionally mandate that there be an attorney present simultaneously at the first appearance. What Rothgary said, and it was an 8-1 opinion from the U.S. Supreme Court, and they kind of did not specifically say what the timing needed to be with the appointment of counsel. It just recognized that once the right to counsel attached, that attorney had to be appointed within a reasonable amount of time, not a simultaneous appointment. So all that said, I'm bringing it to the committee's attention that was continued for another 5 years, but we still have to deal with the issue. And I think it's important that we continue to have discussions with people down at the Capitol about the misunderstanding or misrepresentation that some have put forward regarding the requirement.
Okay. Thank you, Judge Day. Is there any, so first of all, let's make the correction in the minutes regarding page 9 that Judge Day stated before I
Page
sign
19,
those.
19, Madam Chair, I'm sorry, 19, last
Oh,
paragraph.
page 19, okay. In the minutes. And then is there any questions for Judge Day? Okay. All right, thank you, Judge Day, for that update. So Liz, let's go into the legislative positions.
Thank you, Councilmember. So interestingly enough, the first bill I actually have to bring forward is Senate Bill 23-072, which is the Sunset First Appearance Defense Council Grant Program. The staff did recommend actively support as it would continue that grant program, so the city would receive funding. But based on Judge Day's discussion, I'm not sure if that position would be wanting to change from the council members. So
Well, based on what Judge Day said, I mean, I don't think it's like an actively support. So Judge Day, what's your recommendation there? Monitor or?
Well, the fact that they've agreed to, and sorry, Madam Chair, the fact that they agreed to not sunset it immediately and continue on with the program for another 5 years, I support that. Clearly, there needs to be some work done in the next 5 years to maybe further educate or have further conversations about what truly the mandate is and whether or not it is a constitutional mandate to where it wouldn't require funding. If it's a mandate imposed by the court, excuse me, by the state, there would have to be funding for it. And I would submit that at the current status of the law would say that this is a state imposed mandate that would require to be funded.
Okay, so I guess let me just kind of readdress the question. Here we have actively support.
Yeah.
So your position is this position to actively support this?
I would support it in that they are proposing that it would continue on for another 5 years. Yes.
Okay. Okay. Councilmember Jurinsky, Councilmember Zvonek, do you support the position of actively supporting Senate Bill 23072?
Yes, sorry, I was on mute. Yes.
Councilmember Jurinsky?
Yes.
Yes, I support it as well.
Great. Okay, the next bill up that we also had some previous discussion on, which is Senate Bill 23-075, Senator Field's bill. I guess I'm just asking the committee members, I don't know if I missed something, but what is the position? Because right now we currently actively support the bill, but I know there was discussion that we don't particularly like the amendment that was adopted. But Senator Fields had mentioned that she does support the bill with the amendment. So I am unclear if the committee would like to support if amended and pull support if not amended, or continue with the support position.
Councilmember Zvonek?
Yeah, I would suggest my view is that we continue to actively support and that we continue to advocate against the amendment, but that pulling our support in light of what Pete said is that even with the amendment, there's added protections. So that's great. But I think that the better position, which we should advocate for, is no amendment, but we'll continue to support it because the political reality is that it's going to support, or it's going to probably pass with the amendment, which is better than nothing.
Nothing. Yeah, and I support Councilmember Zvonek's recommendation on that as well. So Councilmember Jurinsky?
Yeah, I do as well.
Okay.
Thank you so much. So as we're moving into support if asked right now, the first bill up is Senate Bill 23-082, Colorado Fostering Success Voucher Program. This bill would create some rental assistant voucher programs for youth between 18 and 26 that are experiencing homelessness that have also been in the foster care system. And there are some certain specifications surrounding that included in the summary. The position recommendation is support if asked by staff, as many of the homeless youth in Aurora have noted to come from the foster system, and this would hopefully help to address those youth.
Okay, Councilmember Zvonek, Councilmember Jurinsky, do you have any questions or comments? And then what would be your position on this bill?
Councilmember Lawson? Good.
Yes, Councilmember Zvonek.
So a question, what is the rental assistance? What does that look like?
So I believe we have Jessica Prosser on, and I will direct that question towards her, as I'm not exactly entirely sure what that would look like from the bill. My assumption would be that it would have to go to rules to be thoroughly decided.
Is
I don't know
Jessica,
if Jessica has any input on that.
But I
is
guess
Jessica online? I don't see her. Okay, go ahead, Councilmember Zvonek.
I was gonna say, I just want to know details as far as like, what's the time period in which they'd be eligible for it, and some of the circumstances. My view would be to monitor it at this point, because I think there's, at least I have some unanswered questions, but that would be my position, monitor.
Okay. So Councilmember Zvonek is monitor. Councilmember Jurinsky?
Monitor.
And I support.
Great. And Councilmember Zvonek, I will seek to get you the answers to those questions.
Okay, thanks.
The next bill is House Bill 23-1153, Pathways to Behavioral Healthcare. So this bill would require the state to contract with an independent third party to conduct a feasibility study to determine kind of the feasibility of creating a system to support individuals with mental illness through collaboration between Colorado's behavioral health and judicial systems. So to be clear, this bill is only authoring a study to be done. CML does support this legislation, but it was noted by staff that this could be, whatever comes out of this study could be very beneficial to the city in identifying areas of need or areas of future collaboration and any, potential grants or programs that could come out of that.
Councilmember Zvonek, Councilmember Jurinsky, questions and comments, and then your position on the bill.
No questions or comments, but I would support the idea of doing the study.
Okay, Councilmember Jurinsky. I support as well.
Next bill is Senate Bill 23-059, the State Park and Wildlife Area Access Grant Fund. So this bill would create a state kind of like a access grant program for local governments to use so they can get reimbursed for access route maintenance for state parks. So there would be a fee, and the language does kind of limit the use of funds to only access ways that the city owns, but we would still get additional funding if we sought it. So the recommended position is support if asked.
Okay, Councilmember Zvonek and Councilmember Jurinsky, questions and comments, and then your position on the bill.
Yeah, question. So you said that it would create a fee. What is that? Who assessed to who?
So local governments can apply to the Parks and Wildlife Commission for the imposition of a fee up to $2 a day on day use visitors.
So if there's accesses that we upkeep that are going into state parks, we could request that fee to be okay. And so it gives us that option. We don't have to do it, but it gives us local. I think that's a good idea. I support it.
Okay, Councilmember Jurinsky? Do you support the position? Okay, I support it as well.
Okay. Great. The next one is House Bill 23-1202, Overdose Prevention Center Authorization. So this bill would allow a city to authorize the operation of an overdose prevention center within the city's jurisdiction. So while this bill would just allow us to do so, but I believe we would still have to go through council and committees to be able to actually authorize that with the city, but it would be permissive in allowing us to be able to do that if we wanted to. So the recommended position is support if asked.
Okay, Councilmember Zvonek, Councilmember Jurinsky, questions or comments, and then your position on the bill.
I oppose.
Okay, Councilmember Jurinsky.
I also oppose.
Can I just ask a question on this? Does this mean like this would be something like injection sites?
Yes.
Oh, okay, I oppose that.
Okay. Okay, and then now we are moving into the opposed if asked bills. So House Bill 23-1076, this is on workers' compensation. So this bill increases the limit on medical impairment benefits based on a mental impairment for 12 weeks to 36 weeks. So the bill would kind of remove language authorizing an employee to petition the Division of Workers' Compensation in the Department of Labor and Employment prior to receiving a replacement of any artificial additional physical improvement device that they would need. So this also allows an employee to request a hearing when the employee's temporary total disability benefits end. The position is opposed if asked, as the bill as noted by staff, could increase the city's workers' compensation costs, and the increase in mental impairment benefits allowing workers to challenge terminations in sections 3 and 7 of the bill would adversely affect the city's costs and the risk of workers' compensation claims.
Questions from the committee, Councilmember Zvonek, Councilmember Jurinsky, and then your position on the bill.
Oppose.
Okay. Councilmember Jurinsky?
I also oppose.
Oppose as well.
Okay, so the next opposed if asked position is House Bill 23-1032, remedies persons with disabilities. So this bill would essentially make 3 primary clarifications about remedies for a person with disabilities and what they are entitled to under Colorado law. So they're prohibited from being discriminated by, and they also allow, the bill would also allow state law to have a lawsuit brought by them related to disability discrimination, like by a public entity. So it allows for damages of emotional distress, and it also does not require that a plaintiff file a charge of discrimination with the Colorado Civil Rights Division prior to filing the suit. So staff, when reviewing this bill, noted that if this passes, we are expected to see an increase in frequency and cost of litigation for any kind of disability or disputes of that nature. And then just to note, CML is opposed to this bill as well.
Okay, Councilmember Zvonek, Councilmember Jurinsky, comments and questions, and then your position on the bill.
Oppose.
Oppose as well.
And then the last one is a bill that we had brought up previously. It's House Bill 23-1061, the alcohol beverage retail establishment permit. This is an update and then kind of a question if we want to maintain our positioning. So there was an amendment proposed for this bill that we're looking at. So the amendment would, and as detailed kind of in the bill summary sheet, restrict eligible permits from holding a license or any other type of license to serve alcohol and beverages. It restricts service between 2 and 7, and then it doesn't allow a person under 18 to serve alcohol. It raises the local application fee to a maximum of $200, and then eligible retailers for this permit would need to have under 25 employees and then have under 5 million in annual sales, with art galleries specifically being the exemption to that specific provision. So it also would limit the size of the beverages served to 12 ounces, and then excluding additional businesses from attaining the licenses, such as firearms retailers, car dealerships, dispensaries, school daycare facilities, and gas stations and convenience stores. We do have Trevor Vaughn available to answer additional questions, but staff still is not a fan of this bill, as they believe that the state should not put any caps on mandated fees, and that the city or municipality should be able to increase or leverage fees as they see fit. And then there are still noted concerns that venues allowed to participate are not further restricted. In places where there are already safety concerns, there could still be some increase in concerns of that nature. And then so staff also believes that permitting should end at 10, as if they go until 2 a.m. It seems like they may also could be considered a bar. But I will say Trevor Vaughn is here to answer any questions about this particular amendment.
Trevor, did you want to add to this before we ask? And if there's any questions from the committee to Trevor, please do so as well. Trevor?
Yeah, I think Liz pretty much covered it. Just some additional thoughts in there. You know, local fees. Again, it's not saying that we would charge that much for this, but again, once you put it in statute, it's kind of in set in stone, and then you have to go ask them as a local jurisdiction what the fee should be. I really think that should be up to city council to as far as local fees. Just thought on this bill. It looks like it was perhaps you know, maybe not particularly thought out prior to when they introduced it, because, you know, now they're making some changes and excluding some types of businesses. And so perhaps maybe there should be some thoughts as to when maybe a slow expansion of this. And that's why I mentioned maybe, consideration for hours earlier than 2 a.m., which is what bars are. Maybe consideration of opening this up to certain kinds of businesses rather than all businesses, and then trying to identify where you might be having problems. Just kind of thinking over those things. One of the other thoughts that I didn't have in here is that they did not exclude places that sell tobacco, such as hookah bars and stuff like that. Just kind of a fairness issue, and that's actually where we've had a lot of issues with illegal alcohol service. We caught 3 more of them, hookah bars, a couple weekends ago, serving alcohol, and so the question there is, that state statute doesn't allow smoking in bars, but now, if this bill was to pass, it would allow alcohol in hookah lounges without a license, so to speak. They can do this. So just some of those concerns to think about. It just seems like there's still some safety and equity concerns here.
Okay, Councilmember Zvonek and Councilmember Jurinsky, on the last meeting, we took an opposed if asked position. Do you have any questions? And then what would be your position today? Councilmember Zvonek.
I'd maintain the same.
Okay, Councilmember Jurinsky.
Yeah, I do too. And for me, there's no amendments that could come with this that would ever change my mind to support this ever. So I'm always going to oppose this.
Okay, and I oppose as well.
Can I add another thought in this too? There is currently a liquor advisory group committee that was convened by the governor that I attended part of that yesterday. Part of the conversation there was that there's somewhat of a lack of portability of liquor licenses, kind of tricky when you're holding events and stuff like that, limits on days and things like that. At least if you already hold a liquor license, you have some experience with the service, and perhaps that committee might be a better starting place for whatever they're trying to solve with this bill.
Thank you, Trevor. Okay, Liz.
And the last thing I have for you all today is an informational item. So back in 2021, the Assembly passed House Bill 21-1268, which required the Colorado Air Quality Control Commission to create new rules aimed at requiring covered building owners, which, as noted by staff, the city would be considered, as it is a public building, to reduce greenhouse gases. So there are a couple of exceptions to this, as noted kind of in your packet. But what we're really looking at is how the city is going to be impacted by the implementation of this rule. So we have registered the city as an interested party. This does not mean we took a position. This just means that we now have the opportunity to ask questions, gather further information, and then bring a recommendation to this committee if we would like to take a position. I just want to make that clear that we did not take a position. We're just interested in finding out more. So we don't have a position recommendation at this point, as we're still trying to gather more information from the AQCC. And then once we have that, we do plan on bringing forward a recommendation or additional information to this committee if they would so choose to engage.
Okay. Is there any questions from the committee on that informational item?
No, I would just say I'd look forward to hearing more information because I've read some about it, and my inclination is to have an opposed position, but I'm open to learning more about it before I say that.
Thank you, Councilmember Zvonek. Okay, is that it for?
I'm so sorry, Councilmember Lawson. I do request that, can we circle back to the congressionally directed spending discussion? I do have 3 more items if we have time.
Okay, sure.
Sorry. So the additional items that I have for you, and I promise I'll be very quick, the Fox Art Center renovation project, we are looking to request $2.5 million. The Fox Art Center, is kind of the heart of our cultural arts district, and this money would be funded for a much needed renovation project, replacing seating, carpeting, security fencing, HVAC systems, and updating the lobbies and the bathrooms. That's kind of what we are looking at for that specific project.
Okay, we're going back to the congressional directed spending. Does the committee wish to move this one forward to study session? Councilmember Zvonek, Councilmember Jurinsky.
Yes, that's fine.
Okay. Councilmember Jurinsky. Okay.
The next one is the Aurora Public Library Central Library project. So if you remember, we did get funding for the MLK library. So this would be a different library project, $3 million. It will be requested. So essentially what this project would do is to help create a space for our young people to be able to congregate and a safe space for them as well. We've already had an architectural firm complete a space study with a design concept. So the project is shovel ready and ready to go. It's really looking at making kind of like a state-of-the-art makerspace and youth STEM programming.
Okay. Councilmember Zvonek, Councilmember Jurinsky, would you moving this one forward as well? Or, okay, I do too as well.
All right, and then last one. So this would be for mediation irrigated turf conversion. So really looking at water conservation. The estimated cost is to be $3 million to convert 5 acres of turf to xeriscape it and design it. This would be, the design is to be funded by Aurora Water. So the design will be complete by February 2024 and ready for construction spring of 2024. And we're really looking at reducing the water used in landscaping and irrigation as we move through this kind of drought session. The street medians are identified that would be addressed in this particular project within the packet. In the interest of time, I won't go over them directly, but that's kind of the last spending request that we have.
Okay, Councilmember Zvonek, Councilmember Jurinsky, do you agree to moving this one forward?
Yes.
Okay, I do as well.
Thank you.
Okay, is that it, Liz, on those, all of those
Yes.
issues? Okay.
Thank you very much.
Water. Kathy?
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. It's Jeff Seaman joining you in place of Kathy Kitzman. She's on her way to a funeral in Iowa and sends her regrets. Marshall Brown is also on, so anything I misstate, he's my boss, so he can clarify. We have 3 items today for you, one which is written up in the packet, a request for active support for Senate Bill 150. This is a newly introduced bill that will require covered products to be labeled with the label of do not flush. These covered products are principally disposable wipes. I think of it in the context of Clorox wipes, especially since the pandemic. There have been a lot of water treatment facilities, as well as people's private homes and businesses, where these wipes are flushed and end up clogging the systems and creating floods and breaking equipment and like. So the request from this committee is for Aurora Water to actively support that bill as it works its way through the process at the legislature.
Okay, Councilmember Zvonek, Councilmember Jurinsky, do you have questions, comments, and what is your position on this bill?
Jeff, question for you. So what is it? I mean, what products have to be listed as do not flush? And the only reason I think about it is my kids used to play sink and float, and I had to have a plumber come and get a Captain America out. Like, does that have to be? I mean, what are the types of things that are going to be mandated to say, do not flush?
Everything.
Yeah, excellent question. It's got a list of covered products, but it's essentially what are known as disposable wipes, which are actually membrane products, again, like Clorox wipes, diaper, baby wipes, that sort of thing. There's a definition in the bill. I can't recite it to you off the top of my head, but in essence, it's any sort of a membrane wipe that is not built to break down the water treatment system.
Okay. I'll have to look at the bill and actually see what make sure that it's specified that way, because I worry about what that could end up being ultimately. I mean, it makes sense intuitively that those types of things you would not flush, but I want to make sure that we're not going to put ourselves in a position of companies being liable for not putting do not flush on something that, well,
yeah,
obvious.
Let me read to you the definition. I pulled it up while we're talking here.
Thank you.
Me.
Yeah.
The bill refers to baby wipes, diapering wipes, and any pre-moistened non-woven disposable wipe that is composed partly or entirely of petrochemical-derived fibers and likely to be used near a bathroom with significant potential to be flushed, including baby wipes, bathroom cleaning wipes, toilet cleaning wipes, hard surface cleaning wipes, disinfecting wipes, hand sanitizing and other sanitizing wipes, antibacterial wipes, facial and makeup removal wipes, general purpose cleaning wipes, personal care wipes for use on the body, feminine hygiene wipes, adult incontinence wipes, adult hygiene wipes, and body cleansing wipes. I know I read that fast, but that's a universe.
And I just kind of feel, Chair,
Councilmember Jurinsky.
I just kind of feel like it's a mute point, honestly. I mean, they're not, I mean, just because you label something do not flush, they're not going to stop. I mean, the people that are flushing them, they're not going to stop flushing them. I mean, I don't.
We hope that some people will. Some people don't realize they're not flushable, we think. And this costs the community probably millions of dollars a year to deal with the wipes that are flushed down the toilet. Now, I would prefer to have the flushable wipes included as well, but that was highly controversial. So that's not in here, but it does focus on disposable wipes. And we can share pictures of what are known as, well, they have a monster name that you pull out of sewer systems that are caused by these wipes. So they hang up on the roots, they hang up in twists and turns, in pipe diameter changes. They hang up all over in the sewer system, and they cause what are called fog monsters. Fats, oils, and grease then attach to the wipes, and they cause sanitary sewer overflows, all kinds of issues. To your point, Councilwoman Jurinsky, it's not going to stop people from flushing, but it's an opportunity to increase the education. Hopefully with many people that it's not a good idea to flush these. We also get claims that come into the city periodically where they say, hey, you guys, your system clogged and it flooded our house and you should come take care of it. A lot of those are caused by these wipes that are going into the system. And there's some protection by having the labeling on the products. So there's the education and then the protection for the city in dealing with some of those claims.
Well, maybe we just start banning wipes and hand sanitizers. We can throw masks on the list, and maybe we just start banning all this stuff. You know, I don't know.
Well, there's definitely some things you just shouldn't put down the toilet. You shouldn't.
I agree, and I'm happy to support this. That's a whole long list. It all, you know, pertaining to wipes and hand sanitizers, and so like if these people are already flushing them, I mean, you're giving the public a lot of credit, Marshall, that they're gonna take the time to read through a whole package of self-described wipes or hand sanitizers to read that they should stop flushing them. That's all I think.
So Marshall, I just had a quick question. What if there's like an outside manufacturer that's bringing product in? How is that going to work? I read the bill. CML supported this bill as well. But are they going to say Colorado, if this becomes law, we're going to put this sticker on here on the products that are shipped to Colorado?
Yeah, I will say this has already passed in other states as well. So
Okay.
it is starting to pass more and more nationwide. There may be some inconsistencies with imported products versus, you know, local or
Okay.
more local products. So it's not to both the questions and points, it's not a solution. It's not going to eliminate all of our problems.
Mm.
It's just thought of as a step in the right direction in hopefully helping start minimizing some of the problems.
Okay.
And I think we'll see some additional things proposed like this in the future. California has passed this. They were, I think, the first one. A few other states are following suit, and Colorado's kind of in the second round of states that are considering something like this.
Okay. I support it. Councilmember Zvonek?
I would say support if asked.
Okay. Councilmember Jurinsky?
I'll say the same, support if asked.
Okay. All right. Is there another one, Jeff?
Yes. Second item, Madam Chair. Senate Bill 103 is a bill to, in very shorthand, update Colorado's recreational statutes to clarify that when a landowner opens their property for recreational purposes, that the participants in those recreational purposes assume liability for any sort of inherent dangers that they might encounter on the property. The bill comes out of a case involving the Air Force Academy, where somebody was riding a mountain bike across the Air Force Academy, and a sinkhole appeared in front of them. They were injured badly when they fell into the sinkhole. They filed a lawsuit against the Air Force, and ultimately, I think the number is somewhere in the 7 million figure. They were able to get a judgment against the Air Force Academy. What this bill would do is clarify that if you're the property owner and you open up your land for fishing or mountain biking or what have you, that the people that are doing the fishing and mountain biking assume some of the liability for any sort of injuries that they might encounter. It's being run by Senator Mark Baisley from Douglas County, as well as Representative Mike Lynch in the House. We're not entirely sure of its future, but in general, it's getting a lot of support from landowner groups, as well as the environmental recreation community. And at here is that Senator Baisley has requested a Aurora Water logo to use on his supporting materials. And so again, the ask is whether this committee will agree to Aurora Water or the city of Aurora putting their name and logo onto the support materials for that bill.
Councilmember Zvonek, Councilmember Jurinsky, do you have any questions? And do you support, what is the position of the water department?
It's supportive asked. Yep.
Supportive asked, okay. Yep. Councilmember Zvonek, Councilmember Jurinsky?
I would say support, but as far as using the city or the water department's logo, I don't know what the protocol is on that. So I don't. Yeah. I would just say if from a advisor position, I think we should support it because it makes sense intuitively that if somebody's going to open up their property for public use, that you take the liability, and so you can be sued. Otherwise, people are just going to start shutting that down and not letting people on it.
Yeah, and for that very reason, I think of the Aurora Reservoir, obviously. I think we should actively support it, not just support it. I mean, if the Air Force is forced to pay $7 million, I think we should be actively supporting this bill to protect ourselves. And then I guess it would be up to legal if a logo is allowed to be used.
Yeah, I would support the position of actively support. I just don't know the protocol for the logo. So that would be something legal would have to weigh in on that.
Okay, got it.
Into it, I'm just wondering what the city has done in the past. Have we ever used our logo? Or allowed someone to use our logo?
I have no idea.
And I have no experience with that either. I've been representing Aurora Water now for 4 or 5 years, and I don't recall ever making this ask in the past.
Well, we're going to support the bill, but again, I don't, if the part of the bill is that we need to see about this logo, then maybe we need to change the position. I don't know.
I don't think it's connected.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I think it's two separate things. I think we can very easily, you can very easily agree to the position of active support, and I can let the Senate sponsor know the use of the logo is something we're not familiar with. It's complicated, and you know, basically
you have to talk with legal about that. So that might have to come back if that's something that we need to weigh in, but I don't know if that's something we should be weighing in on. That's so okay. So we've taken the position of actively support. I just don't know about that logo piece, if that fits the Pfizer committee.
Fair enough. I will report that back. The last item very quickly is just sort of a heads up. There's a bill having to do with water-wise landscaping that is still in draft form. The Aurora Water technical folks have looked at the draft of the bill and believe that as it was first drafted, it really sort of sets the process of water-wise landscaping back And so they're working very closely with the sponsor of the bill, Aaron McCormick, who's the chair of the House Committee. And Kathy Kitzman simply asked that I put that out there with about that much information and tell you that as soon as we have it as an introduced bill with a bill number, we will be coming back to ask active support on that as well.
Okay, thank you, Jip. Thank you for all of the reports. Is there anything else from water before we move on? Okay. Okay, any miscellaneous matters for consideration from the committee? Okay, our next meeting is March 10th. It's going to be in person. Does the committee have any issues or anything with that date for in-person meeting?
Nope.
At 1 o'clock. Okay, thank you, committee members and everybody who, I know this was a long meeting. We had a long agenda, but I appreciate you staying with me, and have a great weekend.
You too.
This meeting is adjourned. Bye.
Thanks, everybody.